Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and participants joining us in Facebook Live and YouTube. This is Rudranarayan Das, Executive Director, Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Odisha. Welcomes you to all to this global digital platform of intellectual gathering. It's called the World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021, organized by Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Odisha, in association with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack, Odisha. The broader theme of this conference is agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social sciences, and policy frames. On behalf of CARD, I extend my profound gratitude to our patrons, Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, Director, IIM Sambalpur, Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Naik, Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, and Professor Dr. Sarath Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha, and the convener of this largest virtual conference, eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Panigrahiji. Friends, in this evening, we have with us Professor Huseyin Gul. He is come from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Süleyman Demirel University, Isparta, Turkey. Professor Gul got his undergraduate degree in public administration from the Faculty of Political Science in Ankara University in 1991. He got 2 master's degrees in the field of urban studies and public administration from the University of Texas at Arlington in United States of America. From the same university, he also received his doctorate degree in the field of urban and public administration. He worked as a research assistant in the frontline management practices study, a study on the welfare reform in the United States conducted by the Rockefeller Institute of Government, carried out in 1998 and 1999. He currently works as in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Economics, and Administrative Science at Süleyman Demirel University in Isparta, Turkey. His research interests include research in social sciences, urban and political management and policy, local governments, governance, public administration reform, urban poverty, welfare state, education policy, and higher education. He was edited and co-authored several published books such as Basic Principles of Scientific Research 2007, Isparta from Past to Present, an Urban Memory Study in 2009, Social Democracy in Local Administration, Theoretical Approaches of Socialist Municipality and Applications in Turkey 2009 and 2013, Turkey in the New Millennium, a critique of social and political and economic transformation 2013, leadership in public administration and governorship in 2013, and local administration and politics in Turkey, among others. So, Professor Süleyman, we welcome you from the core of our hearts, we celebrating in Dasara festival in India, and we celebrating your lecture also, and we heartily welcomes you in today's session. Professor Süleyman will deliver his lecture, and the topic is social science and research in the digital age. So without taking much time, I would like to invite Professor Huseyin Gul to initiate his talk. Over to you, Professor Huseyin.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Let me also send my warmest regards to the participants, to my colleagues and the students and all the audience. I will be talking about social science and research in the digital age today. It's a very large subject, so I won't be talking about everything, every issue, but I will try to connect the issue to the developments regarding digitization and other information and communication technologies and how they influence us. So I will basically talk about these developments, technological and digital transformations, their consequences for social sciences and research in social sciences. I will also share my insights about social science researcher or scientist in the digital age. And I will share some policy implications, concerns, and suggestions as well. So as you all know, in the modern era, data have been predominantly generated by empirical scientific research. These data, which we call small data, were stored, shared, copied, and reproduced on paper. But today, all these recording, storage, sharing, processing, or analysis are done in digital bits or pixels much easily and in a cheaper way. Digitization, information and communication technologies, internet, among others, have exponentially enlarged the boundaries of what is possible and accessible in science and research today. So the data produced in the last 3 years are more than those produced in the entire human history. So it shows how digitization influences human life in all areas. So let me just give a short information about what made the digital revolution possible. I will just skip the first one because you all know about the first industrial revolution. But without the second and third industrial revolutions, I don't think that digital revolution and the digital era will be possible. So the electricity, mass production, and the personalized computers paved the way for digital revolution. And when we talk about digital revolution, we mean internet of things, information and communication technologies, wireless technologies, artificial intelligence, social media, machine learning, search engines, and digital data, among some others. So when we talk about digital age, we see many digital transformations. Let me share some of the important ones with you. When we talk about digital transformations, we talk about mobile or immobile smart tools, smartphones, computers, cloud technologies, e-books, e-media, e-library, digital data sources, big data, open access, crowdsourcing, and etc. So all these have been changing how we conduct research and scientific analysis. And today, in the era of big data, now we are talking about predictive analytics, meta-analysis, heat maps, observation using visual recognition, text or data mining, cross-referencing, among others. So let me also give you a sense of cyber world. What do we mean by when we say that we are living in a digital world? 4 million people and millions, 4 billion, sorry, 4 billion people and millions of organizations are on the internet and cyber world producing big data and giving rise to data revolution. Online platforms and services such as search engines, social media, e-government, e-commerce, e-banking help generate, store, share, transfer, control, process, and utilize a huge amount of data today. Sorry. Today, 40% of the world is on social media. 200 billion videos are watched on YouTube each month. 2.5 billion photos are shared on Facebook each month. More than 25 billion tools and equipment are already connected by Internet of Things in the world, communicating with each other and producing big data every moment. In 1990, 1 gigabyte of data storage was used to cost $10,000 US. In 2015, it was reduced to just 10 cents, but today it costs only 1 cent. Data, as well as many intangible services and software, are everywhere, available anytime, and transmitted and shared on the internet, online, offline, without any time and space constraints. The internet and the cloud is available 24/7. Algorithms and learning smart machines have become the main problem solvers and service providers in recent years. And this is also made possible, of course, by big data, which we call today's oil. And we also consider it as indispensable for organizational decisions and scientific predictions today. Big data, as well as ICTs and artificial intelligence, have affected the types of research and analysis, along with data storage, recording, process, and sharing. Big data come from communications between state and person, person to person, business and customer, business to business, person to machine, smart machines, and smart machines to smart machines. And big data are behind new networks today, behind mass collaboration and crowdsourcing, new discoveries, innovation, human and economic development, new entrepreneurships and partnerships, among others. Open access and collaborative data production have also become an important field of competition among universities. So the digital age and big data are here, near, and real. Everybody and every smart thing is data source anytime, anywhere. Detailed, classified, and reliable big data can be collected from millions of people, millions of organizations, transactions, and everything by many different ways. And according to research, some organizations research polls and variables. Digitization enables many of us to reach and analyze much larger digital data sets with less effort and resources. Today, we have many different kinds of digital data sources for research or data gathering. We can list some of them as Google Scholar, Google itself, and other search engines. And I found out that when I was preparing my presentation, I found out that 95% of academicians and students use these sources to prepare their papers or get ready for research and for other reasons. Other sources include virtual conferences, online databases and e-journals, Wikipedia, YouTube, social media, news sites, and electronic textbooks. And when we talk about big data sources, we can list items like identity reports, service reports in health, insurance, tax services, student and citizen information, customer spending or sales data, mobile phone reports, billing information by public or private organizations, or data coming from Twitter, Facebook, Wikis, Google, Yahoo, ResearchGate, LinkedIn. They are all can be considered as big data. I received an email from Sage Publications, and it's an ad informing me about a new data set called Data Planet. And it says that it includes 13.5 billion data sets from more than 90 different sources. And it's the largest, it declares or asserts that it's the largest single repository of standardized and structured statistical data sets available to libraries in the world. So 13.5 billion data sets, and these are standardized and structured. It's very important. Let me share another example. I also received it from my email. Today, you know, encyclopedias are not printed anymore on paper. They are on the internet as well. And the Encyclopedia Britannica is now available on the internet, offering new digital research environments and data sets. And this is an advertisement calling for free webinar on teaching research skills. So they are providing research environments, data sets, and educational opportunities to improve research skills. Of course, I have been talking about all the best aspects of digital era, but there might be some difficulties associated with it. For example, it's not easy to analyze big data with all techniques. It's sometimes impossible. For instance, it's hard to tabulate millions of tweets or messages in Facebook or Instagram. So we need new research perspectives and techniques. Of course, this doesn't mean that we cannot benefit from previous techniques, especially scientific methodology and science ethics, science and research ethics. So we still need some traditional techniques, scientific methodology tools, and scientific ethics to run research in the digital era. It's possible to organize surveys and compile, analyze, tabulate, and graph our data over the internet today. I receive almost every day, I receive surveys from my emails, and I try to fill out all of them as possible, as much as I can. Of course, you can use different sources to get data from the digital sources, including OECD reports, rare books, Eurostatistics, and some national statistical institutions or international organizations. So more complex analysis techniques are possible in the digital age with this amount of big data. And we use new techniques of analysis, such as meta-analysis or predictive analytics or data mining, among others. So now let me get a little bit more specific about how it is different now in the digital era to run or to conduct a research. It's important to understand the difference between small data and big data, or classical surveys, and today's research in the digital era. I will share an example with you to explain my point. Let's assume that we are doing a research, and first we selected 2,000 people randomly from the service users of a large telecom company, and we wanted to interview them within the framework of a research on wealth and poverty. Then we started to call these 2,000 people to talk to interview them. When we first called, of course, we explained them our purpose and features of the research and the call, and what we will need from them in terms of information. Then if they accept to participate in the research, then we ask them questions about their demographics, social and economic characteristics. So when we do this, how does this differ from classical research? Now, the first difference is we have access to a data set of 20 million service recipients of a telecommunications company. So our interviews with 2,000 people, in fact, were only a pilot study. This small data set was used to develop a machine learning model and to estimate people's income levels and poor neighborhoods based on the participants' poll records. So the geographical distribution of income and poverty was mapped on the basis of this big data set. Let me give you another concrete example to explain the differences between big data and field research, the data coming from field research. So I will use Twitter as an example here. So the goals are different in a research with data coming from Twitter or data coming from field research. So on Twitter, the goal is to meet the needs of the users. But in scientific research, we have research goals and the human and scientific needs to meet. On Twitter, data is generated by users completely freely, randomly, and according to their wishes, without much restrictions, except for, of course, some human rights issues, privacy issues, or general moral constraints. In science, according to research methods and ethics, we follow our behavior or research process. In Twitter's speed and capacity to generate big data is incomparably greater than field research. The data that we get from the field research is much smaller. Field data may look more scientific than the data from Twitter to you, but I cannot say that there is too much. I mean, the data coming from field research is much more useful than superior than the data coming from pivotal. So it's up to how you use it. It's up to whether you follow carefully the scientific methodology and ethics and etc. So what I also talked about, we use different techniques to analyze data. So one of the techniques that you can come across is predictive analytics. In predictive analytics, we study human behavior from a different view to predict people's responses to certain situations. For example, the reaction of customers to an advertisement by considering many different variables. Predictive analytics is also used to find out how specific people will respond to certain ads, which requires complex research design and analysis. Predictive analytics can also help us get scores for each person's possible reactions to different advertisements and determine which group of people will be interested in which advertisement and how much they will be interested in that those advertisements. So you can more clearly determine what kind of offers or advertisements, such as discount, coupling of different products, organic or authentic products, etc., are to be sent to which demographic groups. So this is just an example, and predictive analytics can be used in many different areas. For example, political parties use it to reach different groups of constituencies, groups of voters, and they try to specifically meet the concerns of different groups according to the findings that they get from predictive analytics. So let me now share my ideas about what kind of a researcher we need in the digital age. And let me start by a featuring article by Gundala Bosch. It was appeared in Nature, the journal called Nature, in 2018. And she declares that we need to train PhD students to be thinkers, not just specialists in a very narrow field of study. So, of course, these are my insights and comes from my years of experience. And I believe that curiosity, open-mindedness, and continuous improvement are important for any researcher. It was important before, and today in the digital age, they are important as well. Teamwork, interdisciplinary studies, collaboration, international collaborations, especially in research, have become much more important in this era, in this globalized digital era. And of course, skillful management of and adaptation to change is important for scientists and researchers as well. And I believe critical thinking and creative thinking are also very important skills, especially to spot important and relevant issues and problems today. But it's not enough. We also need analytical thinking and scientific thinking, of course, along with effective use of research methodology and ethics for quality research and reliable analysis.
ମୁଁ ଚାଉଳ ଭେଦେଇ ଦେଇଥିଲା ତ
Let me talk a little bit about critical and innovative thinking because it's important. We can use it, as I said, we can use it to develop or spot new research areas or needed research areas, but we can also use critical and innovative thinking to ensure better results and implications from research and to develop helpful ideas and solutions to the problem areas that we spot in our research. Just to give a few examples, for example, it helps us to find out how to improve maybe eco-agriculture, eco-tourism, eco-living, smart city applications or implementations, or how to replace plastic with degradable products, or how to improve quality of life, especially for the elderly, the disabled, or the poor. Today, we are talking about environmental crisis, so it helps us how to come up with solutions about how to develop circular economic production methods and reducing waste. We can increase the examples, but I think these many examples are enough. Digital and general research skills to use new methods of research and analysis as well as traditional ones are important in the digital age as well. There are discussions about whether to cite, for example, should people cite my presentation? This is a digital event, and can the researchers cite this event, which will probably will be on the internet? I say yes. I mean, use and cite this kind of sources. We are in the digital age. Use tweets, blogs, vlogs, podcasts, YouTube videos, Facebook or Instagram texts. These are information. These are parts of big data that we talk about. So why not? As long as we comply with the rules of scientific methodology and science ethics, research ethics, I don't see any problem. Of course, ability to conduct research effectively, especially on the internet, and to benefit from internet data sources are also important for today's researchers. It was important in the past. It's important as well today, especially the skills to write, report, and present effectively. But I also consider it to be important to have a perspective in research. I mean, you have to have a paradigm to better understand issues. It's not difficult. It's not easy to understand or the grasp what's going on in the world. So have a perspective in research and constantly test and improve your perspective. Be able to think critically and innovatively, but with understanding and care for people, for environment, for animals. Follow, observe, understand, question, and analyze your environment and the world, and be aware of the important developments and changes, events and phenomena that interest you as a researcher. These are also important for any researchers in today's digital world. And I think it's also important, critical issue, to have a combined focus on human needs together with historical, physical, and natural environment. But I have to share some of my concerns in the digital age as well. It's difficult for many people to have a fair reach to affordable and fast internet in today's world. But these are important, especially fair reach to affordable and fast internet is essential for better information, of innovation, research, networking, and cooperation in today's world. It's also needed to increase the access of the others, like the poor, the disabled, the elderly, to digital world and close the digital gap. Otherwise, we cannot improve quality of living for all. Platforms like Google and companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Apple have dominated the market and the internet, but have caused problems of lack of autonomy, competition, impartiality, and autonomy. Today, as you all know, maybe you follow, Facebook is under investigation in the United States, and many countries are now have some questions about these big companies and developing new policies to deal with them. So how should we, if any limitation is needed, how should we limit the power and freedom of these companies to use their users' data, especially, or powers? So we need policies here about how to do this, because many different countries have different takes on this issue. Fast and free creation and sharing of data has also caused the problems of copyrights, personal rights, protection of privacy and privacy of personal life and data. It was last year, European Union decided to require open access for all publications coming out of research funded by the public money. So if you use public money or your research, if your research is funded by a public institution, you have to publish it in an open access journal if you want to publish anything. We need to also consider the concerns about the consequences of new developments such as gene editing or artificial intelligence algorithms. And when we are running analysis with big data, we also need to be careful about random connections coming out of these very large data sets. And research methodology, if we really stick with the rules of the research methodology and ethics, it helps us here. But it may not be enough because it's a very, very large data set. And so you have to have clear research questions and variables when you start your research. And we need to think deeply in using big data set and do not deviate from what we are really looking for and about our purpose of the research. And we also should be careful about skewness or prejudice in the data or digital gap based on age, region, or ethnicity. On the internet, there is a big bias in social media in favor of the loud, organized, powerful, and the people with digital or financial resources. So let me now finalize my presentation with some conclusions, implications, and suggestions. I think it's still very, very critical to comply with scientific methodology and ethics, science and research ethics. I see an increasing, not only continuing, but increasing demand for reliable and valid research outputs and data, because public or private organizations or civic organizations are in need of reliable data to develop effective policies and make effective decisions. And they are all based upon reliable data. Encyclopedias, libraries, universities, museums, etc. have been transforming to adapt to changing digital environment. And digital age requires it for all kinds of, not just organizations, but people everywhere. And for researchers, I also have very specific, some very specific suggestions, such as getting ORCID IDs, researcher IDs. I suggest that any researcher, any scientist have a web page and should be able to upload their publications on the web page, his or her web page. We should be able to write a blog or share a blog on the issues that interest us. It's a part of a scientific endeavor, because we are not producing data for nothing. We need to have an impact on the environment around us. So why not write a blog or share a blog? And it's better to follow our performance, that so that we can have an idea how we are performing, how we are going towards future. And finally, I believe that globalization and digitization will continue to create more chances and opportunities, avenues to cooperate, collaborate, crowdsource, or conduct interdisciplinary studies globally, not nationally or regionally, but globally. I think education will also take a new shape. We should expect more involved and diverse student body, more research and implementation based and employment and self-learning focus in education. Students don't come to higher educations anymore if they do not expect to find an employment after finishing university, after graduation. So we need to think about it. More opportunities for flexible education, allowing to take courses internationally from any university, from not just one university, from any university they want towards a degree in the field of their study. So we should all watch closely, evaluate carefully and critically to predict what digitization and the digital age has to offer for us, for scientists and research, as well as many different CEOs or politicians or many others. I just received this today to show. I want to show you as my last example. It's a publication by European University Association, and it's a publication on universities without walls, a vision for 2030. And if you look at the contents, you see cooperation, upskilling, artificial intelligence, big tech competition, and technocrats, etc. So everybody all over the world are talking about all these kind of issues and trying to predict what the future holds for us. So I think we should continue thinking about all these issues with, of course, an eye about the threats or risks involved in digitization. And we should also continue reading books. Of course, digitization is nice. It brings everything to our fingerprints, but it's nice to still for our generation at least, it's still nice to read written documents or books or newspapers. So thank you very much for listening to me. Now, if you have any questions, if there is any questions, I will be very glad to answer and share my ideas. Any questions?
I would like to Dr. Nupur Patnaik to go for any quick comment, please, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bikram. A very good evening to all. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Huseyin Gul for taking a very important topic that is very relevant today, the social science research in the digital era or the digital age. Thank you, sir, for coming all the way from Turkey virtually and enlightening us about these things, because this is a very important issue. Because lots of people are suffering from this particular thing, that how to conduct research in this age, this online world. It becomes very difficult as a social science researcher. And sir, you have said about the data sets, the different kinds of data, and how to handle everything, and what is this big data challenges and other things. So I think this is very important for all of us to understand that in this digital world, how to adapt with the digital techniques and the digital mode of evaluation of research. And specifically in social science research, it is very important, because as research is changing and the things are evolving, and one needs to adapt themselves in the evolving world with the techniques, as sir you have said. So I think it was really very enlightening for all of us to understand this thing and how to adapt new research techniques. So thank you so much, sir. And we have questions also, sir, in the chat box that are there. There is a question: how social science research in the digital age giving advantage to the Adivasis or tribal or other marginalized section of our society, whose nature, culture, religion, and identities have been under constant threat by the imposition of dominant majoritarian culture by the state. So how could be data conducted on the tribals? So somebody has asked this question.
Is it written in the chat section?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Which one is it? How social science research in the digital age giving advantage to the tribals or other marginalized sections of our society, whose nature, culture, religion, and identities have been under constant threat by imposition of dominant majoritarian culture by the state. Is that the question that you
Yes, sir. Yes,
raised?
sir.
Okay, I think I have a positive view here. Of course, you know, having resources in terms of money or access to internet or digital resources still creates a gap. So it's not easy in terms of it's not easy for marginalized groups to use these tools, because they don't have enough resources. But internet and digital world is such a wide and accessible world, so that almost everybody, if you have a smartphone and have a social media account, you can you know, share almost everything, as long as if you don't, of course, disturb other people's rights and etc. So it opens new avenues for all kind of people, all kind of groups to share their ideas. But you know, it takes time. You know, not everybody has that time. So some very marginal groups, very nationalists like Nazis, or very leftist separatist groups sometimes, they also tend to use these avenues, or some crime groups, they don't have anything else to do. So they use, some deep areas. There are some deep areas on the internet. So it's, as I said, I have some concerns about such issues, but I believe in general, I have a positive view that it's enlarging the world and the shared area, the public area for everybody. So everybody, almost everybody, of course, not everybody, because still maybe 3 billion people don't have access to the internet. So if you look at the issue globally, there are still inequalities in terms of reaching internet or using internet. So I have a positive view, but we need to be careful and cautious, I would say, as an answer. If you read other questions, I can also, if any other questions, I can try to answer.
Yes, thank you, sir, for this insightful answer. We have another question, from Dr. Bikram Jena. He has asked that fluctuating facts are very problematic in digital age. What is your observation and suggestions to handle social science research for vision to 2030 beyond walls and across the globe?
Nice question. Now, if you ask me how I would define science, I would define science or scientific research as an endeavor to, spot the change and follow the change. Of course, the type of the change, size of the change, and impacts of the change. So science is itself, in fact, about the change or the fluctuations. We try to catch the change from the past to today, or in economics. Every day, see, every day we try to, or every month, try to collect data about inflation, unemployment rates, American Fed interest rates, or European Central Bank interest rate. So we are always following changes if you look around. So I don't see it as problematic. It's science. I mean, we meteorologists try to provide information us whether we are going to take an umbrella with us or not when we are going out. So it's science, the following change, trying to understand the meaning of the change, or where the change goes, or where the change takes us, what kind of future we will have in this changing world. So science is about all this. So it's important that we follow change, try to understand change, and draw conclusions or insights from this change. So regarding I think it comes from the slide that I shared. Really, I think the education, at least higher education, I believe, is going to change very fast. We have been experiencing it during the COVID era. Now, see, we are conducting a conference or speech, presentation over the internet. So why not do it in education? And it's changing the way we provide educational services. I don't think today in my university, for example, students don't want to come to the campus, especially graduate students. They don't want to come because they say they are working, we are in other cities, so we don't want to come. It was very nice during the COVID. We were doing it over the internet. So what's gonna happen? I think we start to like it. We have a professor in our department who was planning to retire because of the digital education or distance education, because he doesn't know how to deal with it. Now he learned it, so he doesn't want to graduate, retire. He loved it. So everybody started to like it, this kind of changes in higher education, because it frees us from space and time constraints. So somebody, if somebody wasn't able to attend this conference today, they will be able to watch it on the internet, right? It's the same in education. So if they cannot attend the class, it's ready there. It's the recorded, or they have class books or textbooks, documents, and other, PowerPoint presentations or other digital materials to use in the course. So I believe we need to really try to predict where higher education is headed. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. All these buildings that we are using now, maybe most of them won't be necessary in very near future. I'm not talking about 20 years later or 30 years later. Now, the report was a vision for 2030. So it's like 9 years later. So we need to talk about what's gonna happen in the next 9 or 10 years or 8 or 9 years. I don't have all the answers, Vikram, but I have some insights, so I shared them with you. I hope they were helpful.
Hello, Professor Huseyin. I have a few questions for you.
Of course, go ahead.
Today, complex algorithm of artificial intelligence is now controlling our minds. If you say than ever before, you can say that Google knows us more than our mother in terms of our likes or dislikes in every aspects of our life. We all are living in an age of big data and artificial intelligence. Even if you say that politicians, media houses, corporates have been constantly trying to manipulate our minds using their various propaganda platforms like this social media to get their desired advantages. So my question is, how social science research deals with these problems in a post-truth world order, where emotions plays more important role than the objective truth or fact?
Very good question. I'm not sure if I have the answer, but as I said, first of all, we need to be very good researchers, searching for the truth. And it requires really developed research skills. It's not easy because we are talking about Google or other Amazon or other very big and strong companies, and they care about profit, or governments. They try to protect their national interests, so they manipulate data. For example, in the international global market, as a country, you try to influence the developments in accordance with your needs. So it's a part of the game. As scientists or researchers, I think it's our duty to try to shed light on the real facts, the reality, and try to inform ordinary people about what's going on in the world. But to do that, first we need reliable data. We need to get reliable data. So how is that gonna happen? I am not sure. I am not really, because we try to predict the result of an election, and we used Twitter data. But I had to work with intelligent, artificial intelligence specialist, computer scientists. I can't do it myself. So that's why important to collaborate or cooperate with others. That's why important to do interdisciplinary studies in this age. But above all, I have to say that, science has some really clear rules about how to run research, conduct research, or run statistical analysis. So we need to stick with those rules. We need to be careful about, I shared some of my ideas about how to deal with big data. It's not easy. It has some shortcomings or pitfalls, you can call it. So we need to stick with these the rules of scientific methodology. Be careful about how to deal with big data, but plus ethics, science ethics. Be honest with ourselves and with the people, and in doing, running, conducting research and running statistics, because it's easy to manipulate any numbers. So it's not an easy question, but that's my answer.
Yes, thank you. I have another question. How social science research is trying to bridge the gap between those who owns the data or information and those who don't? Do you think that the future of Google, Facebook, and other digital platforms are unimaginable in terms of profit, who are going to rule all over the world in now and future, because they own the big data in terms of information in this infotech world, who may charge for this in future in terms or as a huge cost? What is your ideas on it?
I am not sure if I understand the question correctly, but the first part, can you repeat the first part?
Yes, that how social science research is trying to bridge the gap between those who owns the data or information and those who does not.
Okay.
Do you think
Okay.
that the future of Google, Facebook, and other digital platforms are unimaginable in terms of profit, who are going to rule all over the world in now and future, because those who own the data, they own the world? What I think.
Unfortunately, that's as far as I know, for example, if you wanna use data from Facebook, it's not easy. I mean, you need money, you need connections. So I can, for example, of course you can do some research, but if you wanna, for example, predict using Twitter data, and if you wanna predict the results of an election, it's not that easy to get the data. This gap between those who have and who have nots will continue to stay there, I believe, because it's the work in terms of having data and having access to the data. There are too many inequalities there. Let's say you remember the Analytica. I think it was the Analytica in the United Kingdom, the name of the company, bought data from Facebook, if you remember it, to predict the outcome of the presidential elections in the United States of America. At that moment, Trump and who was the Clinton, they were the two runners in the presidential elections, and the Trump camp hired a company in the United Kingdom, and the company bought data regarding the voters in the United States about their demographic characteristics and different kind of data, socioeconomic characteristics, and etc., and use it to see their tendencies about which part to watch. And on the basis of those analysis, you know, we are not 100% sure, of course, but it happened and it had some influence on the outcome of the data. So if you have resources, if you have access to data, if you have money, because Facebook or other companies, they are selling the data that they collect freely from our accounts. So it's really, I mean, it's an unregulated area field at the moment, and the governments are working on it. But I'm not sure how well solutions or good solutions they will develop on that issue. So I'm not sure if we can really close the gap in that regard. So that's my answer. Not easy issue.
Thank you, sir. Over to Dr. Janna.
Okay. Any other questions? It was really my pleasure to get ready for this presentation, because learning never ends. So I also learned some new stuff, and I try to share my insights and ideas with you. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. It was really my pleasure to meet you.
I would like to now invite Professor Bishidas for concluded remark and also vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Namaskar to esteemed Professor Huseyin Gul from Turkey. First of all, I extend my gratefulness to Dr. Bikram Jena, the director card, to organize such kind of mega dialogue series, in which from all over the world we are inviting many scholars of international repute to have a dialogue on different issues related to human sciences. And in this series, we are very much fortunate to have you, sir, Professor Gul, sir. Really, it's a very enlightening talk for us. It may be said a booster talk for social science researcher in this age of digital information. I have a couple of observations on this talk. We may be proud of privileged being a part of digital planet, which have been inundated with a larger amount of information. What you have told that in preceding 3 decades, in preceding 3 years, we have produced a large amount of data, which may be larger than the entire data produced by the human history. So this may be true, but whatever we have produced, these are, I may categorize this information, this big information, into 3 aspects, 3 dimensions. An amount of data, maybe you say it is real data. We can access the real data all over the world, but I can say a large amount of data also can be said propaganda based. The ideologies, the persons, those who want to propagate their ideas, their information, this may be called propaganda based data. So propaganda based data cannot be helpful for social science, the real social science research, like the real data. Real data may support social science research or any science research, natural science research. But propaganda data may not be reliable. Another group of data may be called fake data. During this pandemic period, we have seen a large number of fake data also. The data is the photos, the information have no relation with the real situation. Sometimes fake data are being generated. So it is not going to help us. So these fake data and propaganda data are not going to help us. We are only relying on the real data. Another thing I have observed that my friend was talking of what Adivasi research, tribal research. How can this is going to help Adivasi research, tribal development, tribal research, where we need anthropological study or field study or direct empirical study. So I think it may get a setback if we go for a complete digital survey. So I think the digital tools, a number of digital tools are there which may be helpful for social science research. We can have interview with the people on internet. We can have observation of the situation through internet, but we cannot completely rely on these internet tools. We have to be there in person, in physical presence for real data, for a real study, for case study, for anthropological study. So that is what I am telling regarding the scientific methods and procedures of data collection. So this is my submission. So eventually, I am very much thankful to you, sir, for your deliberation, for your time and resources on behalf of Center for Adivasi Research and Development, and on behalf of our team. We are very much grateful for your talk. I must be thankful to the patrons, three universities, IIM Sambalpur, Revensa University, and Central University of Odisha, and the Honorable Vice Chancellors, and the convener, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda and Sarjot Panigrahi, and my dear friend, the director, Dr. Bikram Kishori Jena, and Rudranaran Das, and Dr. Nupur Patnaik, and my other friends, Dr. Amulya Acharya, Nina Das, and other friends. So we are very much thankful to you, sir, and we must hope to see you in future with us in many occasions. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much for your very nice contribution as well. It was my pleasure to be with you today. I hope I raised some more questions than I answered. So thanks again for having me as your guest speaker. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening to all.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.